Well, hello, that's me again. Today is November 1st, 2024, and what you see in the beginning is the use of by Russian army of the thermobaric munitions, and as you may understand, this quarter, so to speak, this block, nothing will live there after that. And fact is, those who will survive probably would be better off dead. And this is just a demonstration of basically expression of what is happening right now in all places around line of the combat contact in former Ukraine, if you wish. Now it's officially Russian territory. But before I go and I'll start talking about this situation, I want to kind of, deviate a little bit. If you can see me in some kind of the reddish hue, I don't know why. I mean, for some reason, my shirt, which I wear, is, you can say yourself, it's kind of reddish and it's maroon type thing. And it gives this hue. And whenever I have the blue or something like that, it provides other hue for the camera. I don't know what it is, but I think so. In my personality, and my visuals are not important, compared to what I'm about to say. And before we go into the big political situation, let me demonstrate to you what Mr. Medvedev stated today when speaking to RT. And he said basically that, yeah, United States may actually die and be dead by own device, because obviously the only thing they know is the exceptionalism of the national so-called interests. And he said they could have lived, United States would have been better off by making, the good, proper, security treaty with Russia. Remember the man, the Bismarck, the greatest, German politician who ever lived, who stated, the first thing in the statecraft is what? To make a good treaty with Russia. Well, evidently, those people in Washington, they think that they are smarter than Bismarck. They are not. They are not even in the same league. And of course, Bismarck is spinning in his grave when looking at what kind of the political elite exists today in Germany. They are homicidal and suicidal people. And, but go back to our, so to speak, goals. Let's start with the line of combat contact, so to speak. If you take a look at today's statistics at the butcher's bill, as you can see yourself, my gosh, I mean, the slaughter is unimaginable there. And we can sit here and really continue to speculate on how really many of Ukrainian troops are dead. Some people say it's up to 700,000 dead, others say million, and so it's what can I say? If you ask me, as I already stated, I stress the number of the killed by now is somewhere around 1 million. So, and we're looking at another million wounded, maimed by this meat grinder. And so when we talk about this number, for you to understand what I'm talking about, and I wrote about it actually in my blog, if you want to go to my blog and read what I wrote about it, it's more than, much more than all losses of the United States in World War II on both theaters. So that gives you, and again, we're looking at about 30 months of the special military operation. And again, you have to calculate, which I write in my book, that actually real deal started primarily after April. Before that, it was primarily, posturing and demonstration of force. The real annihilation of the armed forces of Ukraine started after April, after the Istanbul negotiations have been sabotaged by the United States by way of this clown from London called Boris Johnson, who was merely a messenger. So that's pretty much explains to you the scale of things, and you have to keep this in mind, constantly to be reminded that what you observe now is the largest war on the continent, or Eurasian landmass, after World War II. The only thing which was larger in terms of the civilian deaths was, of course, the Vietnam War, which killed millions of innocent civilians in Vietnam because of the indiscriminate bombing and, just shelling and what have you by the U.S. Army. So, in combat terms, this is the largest war after World War II, and by far. So, and then we go obviously to our friend Marat who shows us yesterday, this is the Kupiansk area. You see yourself that we have, apart from the fact that Kupiansk is pretty much invested, if you wish, it's blocked, and the only way they can survive being, pushed against with their backs against the Oskol River is to run. And that's what is happening. And as you can see yourself, at Pесчаное, we have already new cauldron forming. And yeah, it's gonna be finished, obviously. And we have, large, small cauldrons, cauldrons within cauldrons. And it's a complete demolition of whatever is left of the armed forces of Ukraine. So we're gonna go to Kurakhova. How the situation around Kurakhova looks like. As you can see yourself, this is also pretty bad situation. You will see those blue lines with those arrows pointing backwards. That's what it is. This is pushing out or just absolutely demolishing the defense of the armed forces of Ukraine, where they have to retreat. And sometimes retreat is the, euphemism for being absolutely on the run. So as you can see yourself, it's very dynamic. And then I want to go back to actually Pokrovsk map on the scheme, not really map, a scheme, if you wish. But as you can see yourself, I already showed you this before, and this is, as I already stated, operational planning 101. This is what Russians do before they invest Pokrovsk. They even their front line, and to make sure that they have all capabilities for, if necessary, for their flank maneuvers. And that's what it's going to be in terms of Pokrovsk. And everybody in Kiev understands what Pokrovsk, fall of Pokrovsk will be, because Russians will liberate Pokrovsk. And, after that, we already know that basically whatever will be left today in terms of defense, it will be the, fields. And you cannot defend in the fields when you don't have the trees, their leaves and things of this nature, which at least provide some kind of cover for you. Then we go back to Ugledar. As you can see yourself, this is more kind of broader exposition of what is happening. As you can see yourself, just today there is a almost 4-kilometer move to even line again, and from Yelizavetovka to Maximovka. So that's where it all goes, as you can see yourself. Constant movement, and the more the Russians move, the more there is a panic in the West, which is, of course, due to the military incompetence, because they understand only things which still matter. I stress it all the time, and there is nothing wrong in measuring, operations in terms of the captured territory, in terms of the advances, but not only that. That is the issue. This is why I constantly stress that they don't do strategic planning. They do not understand it. But if you listen, for example, to conversation of my good friend Colonel Vladimir Trukhan on Nima's podcast 2 days ago, we all, anybody who has any kind of the cultural tether, so to speak, to Russia and to Russian and Soviet military, you have to understand it is all about annihilation of the enemy, and you can kill the enemy in all necessary numbers, which was happening since Russians sat into the strategic defense in 2022, in the end of the 2022. And the outcome was inevitable one way or another. It's just the matter that Russians decided to use the most economical way of fighting the war with the best proxy and probably best NATO army ever, with the exception of the US army. And as the result, we look at today at the Butcher's Bill. It is, it's the 5th iteration, I believe, which is already have been demolished. And that's what Russia and Russian troops accomplished. That strategy. That's everything, because everything is operate as joint organism, not only joint force by Russians, which of course United States doesn't have this. They love to write about this concept, they love to talk about this concept, but I can tell you that the joint force, for example, not a single plane or not a single ship go out and do something which is not totally subordinated to the main strategic goals of the special military operation. So it really happens just this way, and for many people who beat the crap, pardon me, from Iraqis or lost to Afghans, they really have difficulty grasping this. That everything is subordinated to the single purpose of not only winning the war. Russia already won the war. Russia demolished basically Ukrainian state, but demilitarizing NATO. And as Mr. Medvedev stated, as I already stated, if they want the real relations, now it's too late, but they could have avoided this humiliation if they would just, as Bismarck suggested, made the good treaty with Russia. But today already it means nothing, because practically we know that the paper on which any signature of the United States and treaty is not the paper it will be written on. So it is now what Mr. Al Capone said, that with the kind word and gun you can get much further than with the kind word alone. And all this is subordinated to the unified purpose. And just to give you example of the situation, further into the situation, what is happening there, we have this guy, ex-general of the armed forces of Ukraine, spoke about mass desertion in Ukraine. Well, in Ukraine, out of 100 mobilized, only 10 reached the front due to mass cases of desertion and insufficient training, said former Deputy Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, retired General Sergei Krivonos. These are the numbers which are corroborated and buttressed by the statistical data, and essentially, as was stressed many times, at this stage, Ukraine exists as the virtual state. It is done, it is destroyed. It's just a matter of how the regime of, it's not Vladimir Zelensky regime, Zelensky is a puppet, how the regime, which is supported primarily by combined West, will endure, how much longer. It's done too, but we need to see the official, disintegration of this regime, and then maybe some type of the diplomatic dance will start. And when we talk about this Kursk disaster, and some people say that actually we may be talking about right now the losses of armed forces of Ukraine. They are reaching those at this so-called famous, miserably failed counteroffensive of 2023. As I already stated, Mr. Putin stated that in October alone, there was a 26,000 killed in that pocket which Russians are mopping up right now. And of course, the incursion happened since August 6th. And so we can only, hypothesize, if you wish to, about the real number there. I know for sure, and this was basically confirmed all over, 14 brigades have been wiped out there. 14 brigades, think about it. So, and if you take a look at essentially the number of this thing, you have to understand that basically division is usually made out of 3 brigades, give and take. Sometimes depending on the size of the brigade, sometimes it's 2. So 14, divide by 2. What do you have? You have 7 divisions. You have essentially, army. So what can I say? Think yourself, the scale of the thing. So many people still cannot grasp it. So, and as a result, we have this, Elena Karaeva wrote an excellent piece yesterday about Kursk, in which she correctly stated that the West was defeated by Russia in the Kursk region. And she is writing here about metaphysical things, which I want to stress on them. She writes a very powerful verse. It is unlikely that the death of a mother in the Kursk region who shielded her child from the fragments of shells with which the, SSU means VSU, Armed Forces of Ukraine, fired at her home, was included as a topic of a personal briefing for the head of the American Defense Department. The Pentagon chief in Kyiv was told how things are in the Kursk region, giving completely different details. In the meantime, waiting for new military supplies, Elena Karayeva writes. And so she elaborates that actually the number is the Kursk bloody adventure, which is more correctly called a terrorist attack, has already cost Kyiv 27,200. 200 is killed of the armed forces of Ukraine at the loss of a huge number of Western armored vehicles. And Kyiv, based on the observation of the past few years, only knows how to throw new portions of cannon fodder there, which exactly happens. And this is the civilian civilian reporter writes for RIA News. Kyiv is also still allowed to spin like a snake on a frying pan, trying to delay the collapse, which is correct. And but I will address this issue in a minute. And so she writes correctly that the topic of the terrorist attack on the Russian soil on the internationally recognized territory of Russia undertaken on the morning of August 6 has been deliberately reduced to almost nothing in the American and Nigerian collective Western media. Absolutely. They are propaganda outlets, they are war criminals. Practically every single mainstream media in the United States and in Great Britain and in Germany are complicit in war crimes and atrocities. So, why? In order to leave time and space for dispersing various fakes, such as the analysis of the same satellite images as the invasion. She writes about it, how basically, things are going bad and how the information is faked. And so she concludes that the bloody attack on civilians in the Kursk region, the circumstances of which are being investigated by our lawyers and forensic experts as part of war crimes, and those who planned and carried it out, turned out to be a disgrace and a waste of their own taxpayer money, because it's automatic machine in translation. I have to add that it was for, she talks about the West. The adventure, swollen with blood, did not lead to any turning point in the situation, pulling forces from special military operations zone, and everything that was predicted and planned essentially collapsed. So, and there is all kinds of things which are happening against the background of it, and again, the panic that this such idiotic statements, for example, like by Mike Pompeo, about all this, putting Russia in box. I mean, it is the United States and combined West which are in the box. And fact is, Russians begin to speak in broadsides because the time has come. And we have Sergei Lavrov giving the interview to the major Turkish media, major Turkish newspaper, Hürriyet. I believe I pronounce it correctly, and see, he talks about that Russian foreign minister speaks to Hürriyet, one of the world press. Turkey is a strong country that can make a significant contributions to BRICS. This was, well, essentially yesterday, but it's updated on November 1, as you can see yourself. And while speaking to Hürriyet, look what happens, what Lavrov states. And he states, Russia is open to political solution, obviously, around Ukraine. However, we need to talk about an end to the conflict by eliminating its root causes, not a temporary ceasefire. These include the eastward expansion of NATO, the creation of threats to Russia's vital security interests, and the violation of the rights of Russian and Russian-speaking residents of Ukraine by the Kyiv regime. At the moment, peace is not included in the plans of our adversaries. There you go. Minister of the Foreign Affairs tells you straightforward what are the actually strategic objectives of the special military operation, and why Russians are actually feeling pretty good about themselves, and they just proceed at the pace and in the place and time of their choosing. And so we have, however, this is from Lavrov, speaking to Turkey, he slaps Turkey. And when you see yourself why it is crossed, I will explain. Unfortunately, he says, first, when they ask the question, will Turkey be a mediator? No, Unfortunately, Ankara continues to cooperate with Kiev regime in the military technical sphere. Turkish weapons are used by the armed forces of Ukraine to kill Russian military personnel and civilians. Given the Turkish leadership readiness to provide mediation services, and I crossed it because in the original, its machine translation, it says, it is surprising, actually, that they even pretend that they can be a mediator. Exactly. You have to be essentially neutral, trying to help with whatever it is, but everybody understands that Russians really don't need mediator. Russians already stated this pretty much clearly for on a number of occasions, and Turkey could be the place, sure, I mean, but it's not really mediation. But here is the thing which really relates to mediation, and this is actually significant news. And what can I say? As you can see yourself, today, we know the situation with for Israel is pretty dire. And I want to forestall again all those people who are really also coming out and, yeah, is Israel commits genocide in Palestine? Yes, absolutely. But the Israeli society now is completely exhausted. The economy is ruined, almost ruined, and so Israel desperately needs the off-ramp. And here it is. Israel wants Russia to mediate peace. The Jewish state reportedly believes that Moscow participation in negotiations would add stability to any future deal. The reason they think so, as the Orna Mizrahi says, the Russians will have a special role in implementing the agreement and preventing further escalation, a source told Ynet. Commenting on the reports, Orna Mizrahi, a former Israel Deputy National Security Advisor, told Newsweek that while Israel prefers the Americans, it understands that Russia's good relations with Iran could contribute to the stability of any deal on Lebanon reached in the future. And here comes this whole game, whole diplomatic game, as I already stated. Israel and what it committed, and now being actually very seriously punished by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and obviously Iran demonstrating that it can do whatever it wants with Israel. Israel is in a dire need of any kind of the peace deal, which will actually de-escalate the situation and will, at least in some form, preserve the Israeli Jewish state. So, yeah, America, nobody's going to be talking now with the United States in the Arab world anymore in the way it used to be when they were essentially lapdogs, because obviously Arab Street is absolutely is thrown into rage. Unlike, of course, some of the governments, like, for example, governments of al-Sisi in Egypt, who are Israelis, well, if not friends, they're cooperators, if you wish. And they are very weak governments, very weak regimes. But there is Iran, and as I already stated, we have a huge metaphysical almost change in the attitudes, because we have the Shiite Iran, which essentially already won and defeated essentially Israel, both in person, so to speak, the first hand, and through the proxy, which of course is Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is not Hamas. Everybody knows that. It's a completely different military force, very sophisticated, extremely well trained, and yes, Israel is bogged down in southern Lebanon, and it will stay there for a while until it will withdraw. After that, we have to wait and see. My good friend Scott Ritter thinks that actually Hezbollah will follow and capture some Israeli territories. I don't know. I'm no specialist in the theater there, but who knows? We live, nobody expected what in 2021 even what was going to happen. And look at us today, 2024, and 4 days before the election, which could be, I mean, fate-defining election and for the United States and in the history of the United States. And there are many things which are told about it. But so let's take a look at Mr. Jeffrey Sachs. Professor Jeffrey Sachs talks about that is the West deteriorating, and he talks when speaking to Judge Napolitano. It's not just deterioration, it's decomposition essentially. And as I already stated many times on so many occasions, and I wrote it in 4 books and I'm writing more and more every day in my blog, that essentially we are talking about the, intellectual elites in the West are second, if not third, rate. And when you look at them, it's indeed very true so. However, look what we got. And well, yeah, they are tabloids, they are, but Telegraph, you know what, suddenly brings up this, well, rather sensational thing. King Charles, here we have the situations yesterday, as you can see yourself. King believed only one secret of Christianity not corrupted by political correctness, letter reveals. In private correspondence from 1998, the then Prince of Wales admitted feeling drawn to the timeless tradition of the Orthodox Church. Wow, that is something, isn't it? So, and yeah, evidently Charles at least had some feelings towards Orthodoxy, of course, in the center of which stands, Orthodox Church is I believe, is the combination of 14 patriarchs and patriarchies. Obviously, it spreads all over the Levant and to Russia. And but when you look attentively at Russia, everybody understands that Russia is the anchor of the Orthodoxy. That is why United States and their chihuahuas try to destroy Orthodoxy by means, for example, this people say Patriarch Bartholomew, he is essentially CIA asset. I don't know. I'm not in a position to judge one way or another, but obviously they try to corrupt Orthodoxy from the inside. And this is also relates to some very interesting things of the Russian Orthodox Church abroad, which is in the United States, which pushes constantly this white movement ideas, and Vlasovites, who was, of course, the cooperator with Hitler and was a traitor to Russian people. But the Russian Orthodoxy, for example, and its high throne, if you wish, in Moscow, near Moscow rather, and remains defended by the best armed forces in the world. So keep this in mind. This is the only really truly faith, Christian faith, which is surrounded by the impenetrable wall of the, well, let's put it this way, the best weapons in the world, which can obliterate the world if things go really haywire. And many people try to do it. United States and West generally prefer, most of the time, the indirect strategies of corruption, subversion, color revolutions, and things of this nature. But you know what? At some point of time, even that is not working anymore, as Georgia basically demonstrated to us. And here we have the throne, essentially, of the Russian Orthodoxy, and it is as strong as ever. And you cannot discount those metaphysical things. Obviously, I am myself, if not atheist, close to atheistic agnostic or something like that. I probably have more faith in quantum mechanics, of which I know very little. But still, but many people do. Their faith is, and for some people, it's profound. It's not just, skin deep and ritualistic, which, of course, Russian Orthodox rituals are beautiful, but some people have the deep devotion to it, and we know a couple of those people. One of them is Mr. Vladimir Putin, the other Dmitry Medvedev. So there you go, that speaks volumes. And when we look at this whole kind of, situation all over the place, you see yourself how things indeed deteriorated for the combined West, while obviously Russia gains with every day, and it will continue so. And they have to live with this understanding that, that's the way things will be from now on. And as Mr. Medvedev stated correctly, they thought that they can break everybody over their knee. Well, let's say the expression that you can just put the person over the knee and break the back. No, doesn't work like this. They could do it, and even that they failed. Do it with the small countries like, Iraq, let alone Afghanistan, and it's large geographically, but not very populous. And what do you have today? We know the results, don't we? And this is what was so important about the events of the week past. And this is what I wanted to tell you today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. Those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. That will help me, in doing what I'm doing. Talking to you and, trying to deliver some kind of the sense and sensibility to this crazy world of ours. So have a nice weekend, which is coming. Is it Friday today? Yeah, I think so. So you guys have fun, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.